people of Ireland, in the name of humanity and in the name of decency, for the sake of those who come after us, for the sake of our planet and for the sake of our fellow creatures, and in fellowship with our gallant allies in the European Peace Project and other peace initiatives in Europe and around the world, we declare the right of the people of Ireland, the people of Europe and the people of the world to live in peace, free from the threat and the scourge of war, as set out clearly in the Charter of the United Nations. We lament our government's failure to uphold our constitutional commitments, as outlined in Article 29 of our Constitution, Bunreacht na hÉireann. Article 29 of our Constitution states quite clearly at Section 1, Ireland affirms its devotion to the ideal of peace and friendly cooperation amongst nations, founded on international justice and morality. Section 2, Ireland affirms its adherence to the principle of the pacific settlement of international disputes by international arbitration or judicial determination. And at Section 3, Ireland accepts the generally recognised principles of international law as its rule of conduct in relation with other states. We lament our government's failure to act in any meaningful way to prevent war and genocide and to promote peace, and our failure to adhere to the principles of Article 29 of our Constitution. We uphold and insist upon Ireland's neutrality in all international conflicts, despite any threats, interference, intimidation or pressure from abroad. We insist upon strict adherence to Article 29 of Bunreacht na hÉireann, as so beautifully amplified in the Good Friday Agreement. We insist again on the continued non-military alignment as agreed between the Government of Ireland and the people of Ireland in the Seville Declaration and the Triple Lock in 2002, and as enshrined in 4.9 of Article 29. Again, despite any threats, interference, intimidation or pressures from abroad. At Section 4.9 of Article 29, it declares quite clearly the state shall not adopt a decision taken by the European Council to establish a common defence pursuant to Article 42 of the Treaty of the European Union, where that common defence would include this state. Today, at this very time, our friends in the European Peace Project all over Europe are proclaiming their manifestos for peace in Europe. We join with them in reading our proclamation for peace in line with theirs.
We, the people of Europe, raise our voices. The failure of our governments and the European Union to learn the lessons of the 20th century has saddened and shamed us. We accuse the governments of Europe and the European Union of reckless, war-provoking behaviour and posturing. We refuse to be pulled down rabbit holes of diverse interpretations of blame, defence and retaliation, to be misled by poor and inaccurate journalism, and to be seduced by the dehumanisation and demonisation of the other. We demand that our leaders begin immediately to work together for peace in line with the Charter of the United Nations. The European Union, established as a peace project, has been perverted and has thus betrayed the essence of Europe. This is why today, the 9th of May, we, the people of Europe, are taking our fate and our history into our own hands. We declare that the militarisation of Europe is contrary to the EU's original plan to be a peace project. We demand that the European governments and the European Union heed the voices of their people and engage in diplomacy rather than in war. We reject the planned war against Russia. We recognise the co-responsibility of the West, the European governments, the European Union and NATO in this conflict. We, the people of Europe, with the European Peace Project, oppose the shameless hypocrisy and lies that will be spread today, Europe Day, at official ceremonies and by public broadcasters. And we reject the repression and disregard of voices for peace. We extend our hand to the people of Russia and the people of Ukraine. You are part of the European family, and we are convinced that together we can organise a peaceful coexistence on our continent. We have the images of the military cemeteries before our eyes, from Volgograd to Riga to Lorraine. And we know that the cemeteries of Europe are filled with the innocent and mostly forgotten victims of war. And now we see the fresh graves left behind by this senseless war in Ukraine and Russia. Most European governments and those responsible for war continue to agitate and at the same time to suppress and ignore the true costs of war for their people. But we have learned the lessons of the last century. Europe must mean war never again for anybody. We remember the achievements of the construction of Europe in the last century and the promises made in 1989 after the peaceful revolution. We here in Ireland support the demand for a European Russian Youth Office based on the model of the German French Youth Office of 1963, which ended the hereditary enmity between Germany and France. We demand an end to the sanctions against Russia, the immediate commencement of peace talks, and the reconstruction of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. We refuse to waste our taxpayers' money on armaments and militarisation. Great developments and improvements could be made in our healthcare and education systems, in housing and in the general well-being of our people, as well as in the protection of our planet, with the vast resources that are now being wasted on militarisation and war. Within the framework of a peace conference organised by the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, we call for the creation of European security architecture with and not against Russia, as laid down in the Charter of Paris 1990. We demand a neutral Europe that plays a mediating role in a multipolar world, a Europe that is emancipated from the United States of America. Our vision for Europe is a post-colonial and post-imperial one. We, the people of Europe, hereby declare this war over. We are not taking part in the war games. We refuse to sacrifice our sons and daughters on the battlefield. We refuse to waste valuable resources on war. We refuse to lay waste our land with the poisons, the toxins of war. And we refuse to pass on war as a means of resolving conflict to future generations. We here in Ireland applaud and support the offer of the European Peace Project to send immediately a delegation of European people to begin a dialogue for peace at a place acceptable to both Kiev and Moscow. We reject the call of the European Union to be on a war footing and insist that the European Union take a leading role in initiating and maintaining peace, in keeping with its initial aims as a peace project. We will no longer stand by and watch our future and the future of our children being sacrificed on the altar of power politics. We fully reject the notion of security through the stockpiling of arms and insist on a recommitment and adherence to the Treaty for the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons and the Ottawa Convention. On this day, Europe Day, at the General Post Office, the GPO Dublin, home of our 1916 Proclamation of Independence, and at the Post Office at Newbridge, County Kildare, hometown to the Curragh Camp, home of so many of our wonderful international peacekeepers, a UN peacekeeping centre of excellence. We call on the people of Ireland and on the Irish government to prove ourselves worthy of the august destiny to which we are called in Article 29 of our Constitution, a peaceful, friendly nation devoted to the ideal of international justice and morality, committed to the principle of the pacific settlement of international disputes by international arbitration or judicial determination, and recognising the principles of international law as our rule of conduct in our relations with other states. Let peace and justice reign throughout Ireland, throughout Europe and throughout the world.